You have arrived at your destination.
Hi, this is Gene Simmons from KISS, and you're listening to Sean vs. Wild. And guess what? Now that you've heard this, you owe me $29.95. Go to kissonline.com. Boom.
All right, Wildlings, you wanted the best, you got the best. The hottest podcast in Louisville, Kentucky, the Sean vs. Wild podcast. I'm your host, as always, the man, the myth, the Sean Thriller Smith, the guy putting rad back into talk radio. And this week, no surprise, it is part 2 of Zach Pennington's conversation with yours truly. We're going to be talking about how I transitioned from a musical career into a career in podcasts. So we're going to be talking about how I put rad back into talk radio. I also want to point out a great story, just simply how the power of one single compliment changed the entire trajectory of my life. I thought I was going to be a drummer forever, a musician forever. Somebody gave me a really nice compliment, and it made me rethink everything, guys. So be excellent to each other. Check out that story. Don't touch that dial. That's coming up later in the hour. And speaking of dials, I'm going to take care of some business right now because Joe Brock has been booping dials for me for 83 straight episodes, making me sound like a basquillion dollars, guys. And now he's going to be doing the exact same for you. He is offering his exclusive services to you. So if you have a podcast or you're interested in starting a podcast, he's going to get you set up, mixed, mastered, maybe recorded. He's going to hit you up with a custom or pre-made theme song to make you sound absolutely radical. And yeah, dude, if you don't believe it, my podcast, number 3 on iTunes, number 3 in the country, and that's all thanks to Joe Brock. So if you're interested in sounding awesome, hit him up. He's going to make you sound natch, super natch, mega profesh. All you have to do is send an email to joebrock@brockandrollproductions.com. Yes, that's right. Send an email to joebrock@brockandrollproductions.com. He's going to make you sound awesome. Also, guys, I want to tell you about something else that is super awesome. I'm talking about the Revival Recordings Revival 52 playlist that is on Spotify. Yes, Revival Recordings is going to give you brand new music each and every week in 2018. 52 straight weeks of some of the most awesome music you've ever heard. You guys remember June Divided from a couple weeks ago? I found them from the Revival Records playlist. Absolutely love their music. I jam them all the time now, and I think you're going to find your new favorite band as well. All you have to do is go to ffm.to/revival52. Guys, ffm.to/revival52 and follow that Spotify playlist. And also, when you follow it, they're going to be doing a drawing from those followers. They're going to be giving away an Amazon Echo. How awesome is that, guys? I want an Amazon Echo. I follow it. I certainly hope I win. But if one of you guys wins, I'm going to be just as happy for you. Or at least I'm going to tell you that. And hopefully you'll let me play with the Amazon Echo if you do win. So yes, ffm.to/revival52. Follow them. Get your new favorite band. And get yourself an Amazon Echo. Also, big shout out to Audible. Audible's an Amazon company. And just for listening to the Sean vs. Wild podcast, they're going to give you a 30-day free trial of Audible. That includes an audiobook of your choosing. They have over 180,000 audiobooks for your listening pleasure. They also have some exclusive podcasts you can check out. It's an amazing service. I use Audible all the time. I'm always on the go, or sometimes I'm at work and I like to listen to an audiobook, man. Sometimes you just got to chill while you're doing, crunching numbers. But yes, all you have to do is go to audibletrial.com/Sean vs. Wild. audibletrial.com/Sean vs. Wild. And when you do, they send me a truck full of money. Not really, but they do send me some cash that's going to help me keep the lights on here in the Smithsonian. So every single one of you guys that sign up, it's going to be beneficial to you for an audiobook and beneficial to me because I can, maybe make this place look better. I don't know. Or get some free on with that shit. But anyway, guys, check it out. audibletrial.com/Sean vs. Wild. That's a Haggard quote there, by the way, for those of you that didn't know. And then I want to talk about my OG sponsor, AudiofileInc.com. They've been supporting me darn near since day one. And Shane's been helping me out over the last decade, screen printing everything that I need, all the merch for any previous band and the podcast. I get a lot of compliments on those podcasts, shirts and sweatshirts and what have you, and he could be doing the same for you. So sweatshirts, T-shirts, tank tops just in time for summer. He's going to make you look good, make your gear look good, make your business look good. All you have to do is go to audiofileinc.com and tell Shane that the Wild Man sent you. Again, that's audiofileinc.com. All right, guys. Whew, got through every single one of those business ventures here, and now we've made it to the other side. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. I'm really proud of how these episodes turned out. I'm really proud about how this podcast has turned out. It's very fulfilling to my life, and hopefully it's been fulfilling to you guys as well. If you like what you hear, I definitely would ask you to please subscribe. If you could just follow me on YouTube or something like that. I mean, all these things are free, and they go a super long way. So I would definitely, be very grateful to you guys. You see me out in public, give me a high five. Tell me what's up if you like the show. Usually I have free stuff on me, so I'll get you set up with a koozie or something like that. But yeah, guys, anything that you can do to help the show, I would definitely appreciate it. Support me, and in the meantime, I will always be supporting you guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening each and every week. That's enough from me, guys. It is time to get your party on. It's time to get wild. Part 2, Zach Pennington's conversation with yours truly, coming right at you this week on the Sean vs. Wild podcast.
So this is kind of a two-part question. It could be the same answer, but what was the first podcast you listened to? And then what was the first one you got into?
The first podcast I ever listened to was the Never Nervous podcast. A big shout out.
Really nice.
Never Nervous is from right here in Louisville. And the reason why that I listened to it is specifically because I was a guest on the show. I didn't know what a podcast was, really.
Nice. So you were interviewed on a podcast before you'd ever listened to one.
Yeah.
That's like some Kanye level shit right there.
Right.
I've never been on a plane until I became the owner of an airline.
Exactly.
Like, you're like, what? That doesn't make sense. But maybe that's more of a Trump thing. Actually, they're the same person now, so.
Yeah, they're buddies. They're best friends.
They're buds. It's like Rodman and Kim Jong-un just chilling in the crib.
Every politician has to have a...
eccentric celebrity.
An eccentric celebrity buddy.
Yeah. It's like buddy cop movies, but with actual human beings.
Exactly. So that first podcast I ever listened to was the Never Nervous podcast, and it was because I was a guest on it. And what was kind of special about it is Jake Hellman, that is in Never Nervous, was like, hey, man, would you and the band, like to come on and do this? And I was like, yeah. And that day, it just so happened that nobody else in the band was available to do it. And so I went and fulfilled my obligations, right? And it was one of those things where, we're having conversation and we're talking about everything but the band. We're talking about what I'm into and what I grew up being into and the pop culture. And we're talking about movies and we're talking about other music and all kinds of other stuff. And then we talk about the band. And I just love that format. And I've kind of stolen that format from my show as well because, I've learned that the more podcasts that I listen to, you can kind of get a lot of the same questions in any interview.
Right. It's never about what it's about, though.
Right. You can kind of get the same questions answered in pretty much any interview that you ever watch on YouTube, but you're never going to know really about the person, like the meat and potatoes, what's going on the inside of a person.
What are your tips and tricks for drummers? Play with your right hand and then also your left hand.
Right. Go ahead and try to use both and then incorporate your right and left foot.
If you could get your foot in there.
Have fun.
Your kit style.
Exactly. So that was the first podcast I ever listened to because I was on it, and they gave me a lot of really positive feedback. They're like, man, this was really good. We'd love to have you back. Maybe have you co-host a few episodes.
You have a voice for radio.
Well, I didn't know that at the time,
Now you do.
Now I do. Now
80,
I do,
82 episodes deep. So you listen to this podcast, and you're like, well, I'm amazing, but I'm assuming, the amount of content that you were on at the time was one.
Right, yeah.
So you had to listen to additional podcasts. So what was the first one that you were like, listen to 5 episodes? Or, just really were like, okay, I got to hear every week or every month of this thing.
Early podcasts that I got into was Talk is Jericho, which is Chris Jericho's podcast. He's a musician. He's a wrestler. I'm a big wrestling fan. And he's also really
I like that you
into pop
listed
culture.
him as a musician first.
Hey man, he had a #1 hit just this year.
Really?
Yes.
Which one?
Fozzy with the song Judas.
He's in the band Fozzy?
Yeah, he's the lead singer.
All right, well.
But
See, we learned something.
Yeah, we learned something.
Have we cried yet? God damn it. All right.
But yeah, wrestling
2 out of 3.
and all this sort of thing. So that interests me. Mark Maron, Nerdist.
Yeah.
Tim Ferriss. Mm-hmm. I like the Higher Side Chats, which is a conspiracy theory podcast. Greg Carlwood's the host. He's really good. I like to listen to conspiracy theory podcasts that are laid out in a non-partisan, I guess you would say, kind of way. Because so many people have
I like a good bipartisan conspiracy theory.
I don't know what you would say.
Obama is a Muslim and the savior of humanity.
Right.
And you're like, wait, what?
But
this is a double partisan podcast.
So many people are just like basically paranoid people in their basement. He's just more of like a host that was like, we'll have these people on. They can be as paranoid as they want to be. I'm mediating this whole thing. So if you guys haven't checked out the Higher Side Chats.
So the host has got it.
Yeah, he smokes a little bit of weed and talks to these eccentric folk.
I was thinking about that. I was like, Higher Side. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, those are like the podcast. Something to Wrestle with, Bruce Pritchard. That's a good one. Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast.
Mm-hmm. I'm noticing a theme.
Yeah, a lot of wrestling, pop culture, stuff like that. One of my absolute favorites too is a podcast called Pod of Thunder, and they review Kiss songs at random. And they're going through every song in the Kiss catalog, so they're like 200 plus episodes in. And it's really funny because some of these songs really are garbage, and they just rip them apart.
This feels like an algorithm that was designed. They're like, what does Sean Smith want to listen to?
Yeah.
What if we created a podcast that analyzed every Kiss song one at a time? And they're like, we'll have an audience of one person. Yeah, I'm sure it has like 1 million.
I met them like just a couple weeks ago at a convention.
That's awesome.
And they were super awesome. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them. But
yeah, that's fucking hilarious. I will say, anytime I hear about a new podcast now, like before it used to be like, oh, you should listen to blah, blah, blah.
You should listen to Serial.
They interview politicians, and it was like, you should listen to blah, blah. They interview comedians, and now it's like so fucking niche and random. It's like, have you heard this new podcast? It's like, what? Well, they read owner's manuals of chainsaws,
right,
in German, and then they talk about how that relates to. You're like, what the?
Right. And some of the ones that I forgot. How did this get made? Where they, of course, do all the bad movies and stuff like that. That one's great. My Dad Wrote a Porno. Are you familiar with that podcast?
No.
Man, that one's fantastic. Basically, this guy's dad retired and started self-publishing wanted to self-publish a novel on Amazon, and his son found it, and his son's like probably our age, and it's like a romance, trashy romance, 50 Shades of Grey style novel, and he reads it with his two friends chapter by chapter. So it's called My Dad Wrote a Porno, and if you haven't checked it out, you got to watch it or listen to it for sure.
Zack and Sean make a podcast.
Exactly.
But in porn form.
Right.
Okay, so you got in a couple different podcasts religiously. What caused the jump? Where were you? You're sitting there as a listener.
Yeah.
At some point, you said, I have to be on the other... Well, I guess technically you started as a guest, which is a really interesting way to start. How did you decide to become a host?
Well, they said that I was good.
Uh-oh, they fucked up.
And
never compliment a person because they might actually believe you.
That's true.
That's why I don't compliment anyone.
And honestly, though...
I don't even tip waiters just because I don't want them to get a big head.
Don't get a big head.
They're going to keep doing that whole waiting thing.
But they told me I was good. And that really kind of meant something to me because...
Yeah, that's awesome.
In many ways in my life and throughout my career, as a drummer, people didn't really tell me that I was good at what I did.
They liked the band, but they never were like, you're the guy.
Yeah, there had been plenty of shows that I played and people didn't even know who I was. You know, you're behind a drum kit and...
you come off stage and they're like, hey, man,
hey, dude, you're really sweaty.
You're in my way.
Yeah. Hey, man, you're in my way.
Yeah.
Why are you carrying that drum? Well,
are you stealing that, sir?
Right, exactly. But to answer your question, you know, that's when I decided I wanted to do it because, you know, it was something that I didn't have to worry about being overshadowed by, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is something that could be mine and my own, and I could be really good at it. You know, like I said, on the road, there would be times when, you know, people would come up to me after we played and they would just be like, "Oh man, the drummer of that band that opened up for you is really good." And I'm just like,
"Fuck you."
Cool, dude, thanks. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not even saying anything good, positive about me. You're just talking about how good the drummer of the other band was, you know?
Yeah.
And I just felt like drumming was like something that, you know, people didn't come out of the woodwork to compliment me on. And I was a little self-conscious about my skills anyway. But with podcasting, people were just like, gave me a lot of positive reinforcement. So
do you think that's a function of like being younger in your family? Like, do you think that's like, did you get a lot of attention as a kid, or were you kind of attention seeking, or were you shy? Like,
no, I was always attention seeking.
Okay. Yeah.
I grew up fat, and I mean, I'm still fat. I still struggle with my weight every day. But the thing is growing up fat, you basically have to be funny.
Yeah. You have to fall through a table at any
right,
moment.
Exactly. You got to be the Chris Farley character.
You got to be willing to fall through a table.
And, you know, so you have to develop a personality, and you have to, you know, do that to keep from, you know, to be cool, to keep from being, you know, kind of just the fat
forgotten,
dork.
left. Yeah.
And so I always wanted to be good. I always wanted to be good at something. And so I thought it would be drums. I thought it would be music. And I think that I carved out my own niche as far as my drum style goes. Yeah. And a lot of people enjoy it. It might be a little unsung. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? At least at the time, I felt like not enough people, or not a lot of people at all. It wasn't even on their radar. So when it came time when people were,
well, you're the kind of drummer that other musicians like me appreciate, because we know that you're like serving the song, and you're not trying to stand out. You're just trying to like hold it down.
Right.
But that doesn't get you, you know, I'm 1% of the audience, right? Like,
right,
the other 99% of people are like, Kevin jumped off a speaker, right? Like,
exactly.
That's what they noticed. And I'm like, he played a fill that was tasteful and timely and like perfectly, you know, like.
Exactly. And so, I mean, I guess the point of the story is simply, they told me I was good. That's when I decided I wanted to do it, because they told me I was good, and they said that I had the talent to do it. And I talked to some other people. Actually, I recorded an album for my friend K-Day, and Craig Owens from Chiodos was the engineer on it. And I talked to him about podcasts. I talked to him about documentaries and a bunch of other stuff. And I was like, you know, I want to do a podcast. That's actually kind of like what my passion is. And he was like, dude, you should do it. You know, you have a good rapport. We've been able to sit and talk, like, do it. And oddly enough, Craig Owens of Chiodos gave me the advice that I needed. I was like, all right. And I bought all this gear for my birthday, had it in my closet for months, because I didn't know if I was going to do it at all or play drums or whatever. And, you know, over the summer, he was like, dude, you should do it. So I busted it out. And the day that we played our last show was a Saturday. And
I was at that show.
Yep. The Little Heart Record show was Saturday. And I recorded my first episode the following Thursday.
Yeah.
With Clay. And it took me a while to even just like want to...
Neville say Neville's.
Neville say Neville's. Recorded on Thanksgiving, and I didn't release it until January 3rd.
His birthday is Christmas Eve, so he's like a holiday baby. So
yeah, absolutely.
For him, it's just typical Thursday.
Typical Thursday.
Another Thursday for Clay Neville's.
But yeah, that's the key. That's why I wanted to start when I knew I wanted to do a podcast. Is somebody said I was good at it, and I figured I'd take that ball and run with it as far as I could.
I think that's really important and really inspiring, because, you know, I know a lot of people who were always good at kind of everything, right? Like we all had that friend growing up who's like, what's a skateboard? And they could like do a backflip the first time they got on one, right? And like, fuck that kid, right? But like most of us are pretty mediocre, if not horrible, at everything. But then you kind of find that one or two things that not only are you good at, but like you're a lot better at than most people, and you actually enjoy it too. It's not just, it's not like, oh, I'm tall, so I'm good at like putting, you know, dunking a basketball. It's like, I'm good at a thing that other people don't expect out of me, or, you know, and for me, it was public speaking. Like, I actually enjoy talking to crowds, and most people fear it worse than death.
Yeah.
So anytime I find an opportunity to do that, I'm like, let's do that, right? Like, let's grow that skill. And I think I do think podcasting for you is like such a great fit. You've got a great voice. You've got a great, like Craig said, a great rapport. And I think that a lot of people feel lost, or a lot of people might feel hopeless is a little dramatic, but a lot of people might be like, I don't know what I'm good at or whatever. And it's like, there is that thing that you're better at than most people, right? It may not be obvious, and you kind of might have to, it might come out in your case by chance.
Right.
None of your bandmates might show up, and you might single-handedly deliver an awesome interview and then be inspired, right? So it's really about increasing like the chances that you have to find that thing. But no, the fact that you found something that makes you stand out and that you're special at is so fortunate, right?
Yeah.
It's so awesome.
You know, it's funny that you talked about you like public speaking, because I took an aptitude test when I was in high school, and they were like, this is what career field you might be best suited for, and public speaking was mine.
Nice.
So I feel like
You're essentially doing
I'm just delivering on what my high school
private public speaking.
exactly with the podcast. I'm just delivering on what my high school predicted back in the 2000s.
So we're 82-ish episodes deep, right?
Yes.
Who's been your favorite guest so far, other than obviously me?
You. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I'm off the table. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take a few people off the table. I'm going to take Kevin off the table.
Okay.
Obviously, because you all have a super long, beautiful history together. I'm going to take myself off the table because obviously I'm the best guest you've ever had.
The best there is, the best
So,
there
like,
was. The best. I'm the Bret
So
Hart
who's
of
your
this podcast.
third favorite guest after me and Kevin, right?
I would say probably Christian Thompson. Mm-hmm. What he did, unknowingly, was legitimize my podcast.
Okay.
Him being in Falling in Reverse and them putting out that record, and him taking the time to sit down and talk with me. And, we're from the same small town, Charlestown, Indiana, shout out. So we're from the same little the same little town. And we kind of come from a similar background. And the fact that he sat down and did it, like I said, it just legitimized my podcast. It put me, I feel, in a different league than other local or even regional podcasts. They're
Right.
like, this guy can get the guitarist of the band that has the #1 record on Billboard charts this week.
Right.
That's probably my favorite. He sat and I expected him for an hour. He did two hours with me, So that's probably my favorite, because I feel like that is the one that really put the podcast
On the map.
Now, I had a lot of awesome guests beforehand,
Right.
But I feel like that one was that one's probably my favorite.
That's awesome.
Also got Kevin Lyman from Warped Tour. That one was really
Dude,
good
that's
too.
fucking huge. Yeah, I was so excited for you.
Just these big guests like that, those names and stuff like that. I'm so thankful and grateful that they took the time to chat with me. But it just little things like that is what kind of I feel separates my show maybe from other shows that are out there.
Sure. I feel like, you mentioned Mark Maron earlier. I listened to his podcast too, and it was like he got Obama, right? It was like
that's my goal.
Yeah, and he'd interviewed, my heroes and some of the most famous people of all time. And then it's like, then you also get like, where you're like, yeah, John Mulaney is great, but like fucking Obama, right? Like,
Right, exactly.
That's like a whole nother level. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
I just want to be that. That's a big thing. Like Mark Maron's story from being like a comedian that maybe not had reached the heights that he wanted to be, being sunk in depression, to starting a project out of his garage, to having the president of the United States come to his garage to talk to him.
It's nuts.
Is an insane story. So that's kind of what I want to do. And my #1 is Jennifer Lawrence. I just feel like she's, a role model to many people, but she's somebody that people in Louisville could look up to. She's like the biggest celebrity.
But she's
one of the biggest celebrities on earth, and also
super down to earth.
Super
too.
down to earth.
Yeah.
But she's from right here in Louisville.
Yeah.
She's a hometown hero.
I'm not going to make any promises, but a friend of a friend of a friend could probably make that happen.
Whatever we can do to make that happen, sir.
I will say she came to Flying Axes, and I found out 30 minutes after she left.
Oh my God.
And I
cried. I wept. This is where the crying comes in.
I closed my eyes and mentally murdered everyone for not telling me. So yeah. Okay, so we've talked about your favorite guest so far. Who, we talked about dream bands. Who's a dream guest for you?
Jennifer Lawrence, obviously.
Yeah.
She's number one on the list.
Who's number two?
Oh, number two on the list.
Paul Stanley.
Paul Stanley was on a list. I actually made a list of guests that I would love to have gotten.
We're going to link to that in the show notes. We do that now.
I literally took a picture of it, posted it on Twitter, added everyone, and that is how I got Kevin Lyman on my podcast, listeners. Because Kevin Lyman was on the list.
We just got some inside baseball tips. So
Yep.
you hand wrote a list.
I hand wrote a list of the top 10 guests that I want to get in 2018.
You tagged them in the photo on Twitter.
Yep.
Their actual Twitter handles.
Yep. And Kevin Lyman responded and said,
He
let's
was
do
one
it.
of your 10.
Yep.
That's fucking, dude.
Inside baseball for you
Dreams.
guys. It's all about putting it out there, dude. Manifesting into the world.
The
more I talk about wanting Jennifer Lawrence on the podcast, somebody is going to be able to say, hey, I got a friend that's got a podcast, Jennifer Lawrence. Would you like to do it? It's only a matter of time.
I mean, she was on Between Two Ferns, so.
That's true. I got to compete with Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah, but like that's way lower brow than this. This is maybe more famous, but way lower brow.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say somebody along the lines of, I love my 80s stuff. So like Paul Stanley, Sebastian Bach, Chris Jericho in general.
Did you tag Chris Jericho? Is he on that 10 list?
He is.
He didn't respond.
He did not. But
you know what you need to do?
Repost that list.
No.
Just cross Kevin Lyman off and add, Ariana Grande.
Cross it off like Billy Madison stuff.
Exactly.
Man, I'm glad I called that guy.
Man, am I glad I interviewed that guy.
You should, no, here's what you should do. Okay, so I learned this strategy from Facebook. I wish I could take credit for it. So if you want, pick your big fish, right? So in the case of Facebook, they started Harvard, blah, blah, but once they're starting to expand, let's say they want to go to the UT, University of Texas at Austin, and they're like negotiating, and they're like, oh, I don't know if we want to allow our students to have this. So Facebook's strategy was go to their biggest competitor, go to number 2. If you want number 1, go to number 2 and be like, hey, we're going to give you this thing, right? So go to, and this is not, I don't know enough schools around there. Go to the Lutheran college, right down the street.
Right.
And then UT at Austin goes, wait, what? And they go, yeah, they have Facebook over there. You guys don't have Facebook? All the cool colleges have Facebook. They're like, well, yeah, of course we have fuck. And they call Facebook up. Why don't we have Facebook, right? So, who is the lead guitarist of Fosse?
Yeah, exactly. I want to find him.
Right, and just be like, you are my dream interview. Right. That's your strategy. You have to be like, all I've ever wanted to do was interview you. And then he's like a band practice.
I love
and he's
your time in Mojo Nixon, yes.
Yeah, exactly. See, you know things. I don't know any of these people, and he's a band practice like, yeah, man. And they're also British in my mind.
Right.
Because they just all, they all are.
Yeah, no.
And he's like, I was on this podcast with this Sean fellow.
It was great.
It was totally great. And then Chris Jericho's like, wait a second, Sean versus Wild? And he's like, yeah. He's like, he tagged me. He's like, yeah, he said he doesn't want to interview you anymore. Right? Just fucking neg him.
Right, yeah.
Dude, so he's not even on the list anymore.
My game is going to be totally different. I won't get Jennifer Lawrence. I'll get, I don't know.
Nick Lachey.
Yeah, the polar opposite. The biggest rival of Jennifer Lawrence.
The biggest celebrity from Cincinnati.
Right. Yeah.
Or George Clooney, I guess, is kind of from both.
We'll get Steve Zahn, the biggest celebrity from Lexington.
There you go. Yeah, just get Steve Zahn.
We'll get Tom Cruise instead.
No.
Tom Cruise. Do you think Tom Cruise is a bigger celebrity than Jennifer Lawrence? Not in this day and age, but maybe all
not
around.
today, but
maybe just
in aggregate.
Yeah, Tom Cruise would definitely probably be on my list.
It's like Jack Nicholson is bigger than Tom Cruise in aggregate.
Right.
But if I saw him out, I'd be like, who's that old guy talking to my girlfriend?
Why is he hitting on my girlfriend? As I do the eyebrows.
Exactly. We're gonna release that on video. All right. So I'm gonna go to some rapid fire questions.
All right, dude.
Here.
Lightning round.
Lightning round, as Tim Ferriss would call it, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Fast money, as they would call it in Family Feud.
What do they call it on Cash Cab?
I don't know.
I have 2 dreams, and one is Cash Cab, to be on Cash Cab, and the other is to be on The Price is Right.
Oh, my God. Can you rig the lights to wherever I answer all these questions accurately, it will go off in a fantastic display of strobing colors?
You say that, and that's actually 100% about to happen. Hold on real quick. I have an app called Hue Disco. So I have the Hue lights. For those of you who don't know what he's talking about, I have the Hue colored bulbs in my house. And, so all of the lights in my house change based on sound.
Oh, dude, that was pretty cash cab right there.
Yeah, we got some cash cab shit going on in my living room.
Dude, it looks haunted. It looks like something that would, like, you go into some underground boiler room and, like, the lights just barely flicker.
I'm convinced that my neighbors think that I'm running, like, an illegitimate haunted house.
Yes. Dude, that is crazy.
Between the lights in my living room and then I also have lights in my music room that are, like, stage lights that I'm programming. Yeah.
Programming. You spent 10 minutes on it. Way to church it up.
Again, it's a present tense
It's
verb.
a matter of perspective, okay? It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
All right, let's do these rapid.
Right.
Let's do the fast money.
All right,
here.
we're gonna do the fast money here.
All right.
So, I wish I had more fast money questions, but there's some pretty decent ones. So, who would play you in the movie of your life?
Let's see. Who would play me in the movie of my life?
Other than Charles Bronson.
You think? I would say, honestly, I would say looks-wise, maybe that guy that played...
the guy who played Charles Bronson.
Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy. Oh, my God, I wish. I got to get back in shape so Tom Hardy could play me. I would say the guy that... who's that guy from True Blood that looks like me?
I've seen that. I've seen 2 episodes of True Blood.
Hoyt. The guy who plays Hoyt from
Okay.
True Blood looks like me.
Yeah.
Google a photo. We have the same face. He just has hair. So I'm sure he could just shave his head.
Yeah.
Or, if we're going to go with somebody that could just accurately nail the character, but probably not look so much like me, we'll go with that kid from Superbad. Why did I just blank on his name?
Jonah Hill?
Jonah Hill.
Yeah, I could see that. That would be perfect. I wish Jonah Hill played me
Right?
instead of Leonardo DiCaprio, who played me in The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah. Wolf of Wall Street is actually my autobiography.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's actually the story of the two of us making this podcast. It's like a prequel
Yes.
to this podcast.
But yeah, I would say Jonah Hill would probably nail the nuance, even though we don't necessarily look much alike in the face. We do look pretty close in the body, though, so that probably would help.
I could see some Jonah
I
Hill.
could see that.
I'm not going to let Michael Cera play me, though. Sorry.
That would be pretty accurate, though.
If he played Joel,
Oh yeah,
my
definitely.
drummer, that would be perfect.
Definitely.
Okay, so you've conquered podcasting. You're the number 1 podcast in America.
I'm the number 5, but yes.
No, I'm setting the scene here.
Sorry.
So you're the
yeah,
number.
I have a little bit of ways to go, but
Yeah.
I was number 5 this weekend. Did you see that?
No, but that's awesome.
Yes.
In America,
On iTunes in America for the music podcast.
dude, that's fucking huge.
Thank you, sir.
There's a lot of podcasts.
There is, but I was number 5 for a fleeting moment on Saturday.
I loved when Artifacts Pareo released their new album, and they were like excited about the results, and they're like, we made it onto the charts, or here we are on iTunes, right below a 30-year-old Metallica album. They were like the 22nd most popular like rock or metal album.
Yeah, that week.
And then like Ride the Lightning was like one notch above them.
We issued Ride the Lightning for Record Store Day. So
They're like, Ride the Lightning sold more copies than us in our debut week. Fuck my life. Like Corey posted some like brilliant post where I was like, yeah, that's pretty much just music summed up. Like someone's like, I've never heard of this Ride the Lightning album. I should buy it on iTunes.
Yeah, dude, Metallica, I want to get into them. I heard that they're badass, so I better buy this one.
They
'cause it's
typed
got
in
electric
metal and it was
chairs.
like, do you mean Metallica?
I think you meant Metallica.
I think Metallica named their band before SEO was even a concept.
Dude,
But
they
have
knocked it out of the park.
the most search engine optimized band name of all time.
Metallica.
Meanwhile, Led Zeppelin's like, did you mean Led Zeppelin with an A?
Right, yeah. Did you mean Zeppelin spelled correctly?
Yeah, all of this is fucked up.
I don't know if I ever told you this. I'm sure people would know this. A lot of people, I'm sure, know this. But the band Def Leppard modeled their band name after Led Zeppelin. And Led Zeppelin is
The
spelled,
misspelling.
Yeah, same misspelling and the same like double consonants
Yeah.
misspelling. And they just specifically wanted a band name that sounded like Led Zeppelin, so they're called Def Leppard.
Isn't Green Day named after the song of another band?
Probably.
I
Are you a
remember-
Green Day fan?
Yeah, yeah. I remember seeing some documentary, and they're like, "Yeah, it's just like one of our favorite band songs." I was like, you can't do that. Like, I can't just start a band called The Artist in the Ambulance. Like,
I guess you could,
but I guess you can. Are you getting the full cash cab effect here with the whole?
I am, dude.
Okay.
You named your band the fucking Wonder Years, okay?
Yeah.
You know, like the Wonder Years is a popular band, and they named their band the Wonder Years. I'm like, come on, dude.
The Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, dude, you could be a little bit more clever with your references.
Yeah, I'm going to name my next band The Bible.
I actually knew a band back in the day called Holy Bible.
Yeah, that's perfect.
It's but the fact that
Their
it's like,
distribution is like enormous.
Yeah. Well, could you imagine? It's like, oh, what is the name of your band? Oh, our band is called The Last Jedi, or our band is called Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, or whatever. And it's like, dude, you were not
Jumanji
clever.
featuring Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah, you weren't clever at all about it. You weren't tasteful. So
yeah, that's funny.
Lightning round.
This is more of like a Thunder Rolls round right now. That's
all right.
It's okay because I don't have that many questions. Unlike Tim Ferriss. If you were a monster truck, which monster truck would you be?
I would love to be Gravedigger.
Sure.
Because I feel like Bigfoot...
I tricked you into mentioning a Light Treason song title just now.
Nice. I feel like Bigfoot gets all the glory, but Gravedigger's kind of like the cool badass, the rebel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Gravedigger like smokes cigarettes on the bus.
Yeah. Bigfoot is like Hulk Hogan,
doesn't need a
and
bus,
Gravedigger is like, Undertaker.
The Undertaker, yeah.
Exactly.
100%.
But I feel like personally I'd probably be like Barefoot or somebody that was like pretty lame.
I'd probably be the van from Dumb and Dumber, but just with monster truck tires.
Yeah, I'd be the Mystery Machine.
With the floppy ears and shit. Okay. So you've conquered podcasting. I didn't actually get to finish this question.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's actually good. You've conquered podcasting. You're number one podcast in America, if not worldwide. And you know what? Fuck it, right? Like, you've done that, been there, done that.
Right.
What's your next move?
I would probably start making movies. I'm a huge movie fan.
Yeah.
I love movies. I used to, in high school and stuff like that, take classes about how to, edit and film and put some stuff together. And honestly, I don't know if I would so much make movies, but I would probably write movies. I also really love to write. And one of my goals before I die is to actually write a novel or write a book or write something that is good enough to be published.
Yeah.
So I would probably get into either screenwriting or work on my memoir. I don't know, work on a novel of some sort.
So you would go from industry where it's impossible to make money to industry where it's possible to make money to industry where you could actually make money.
Well, I want to go from an industry of I want to go to being a musician where you have the opportunity to like get a bunch of chicks, but then you can't. Then I want to go to podcasting where you get even less chicks, and then I'm going to become an author. Where you could be just a celebrity, the most undesirable form of celebrity. That's what I want to do.
That's funny. I remember seeing a stand-up comedian who talked about the same thing where it's like, yeah, no, people will come to my shows, but like no one tries to bang me afterwards. Like, it's not like being a musician where people are like, oh, you were really funny. And then they just leave.
Right, exactly.
No one hangs out backstage.
Like, for a fact, Stephen King probably has never had a groupie in his entire life. And he's like the number one best-selling author of the last 100 years. And that man has never like...
No one has ever drank Tom Clancy's underwear sweat.
Exactly.
Okay, we're going to call that our cry. He laughed so hard he cried for the audience who can't see what's going on.
Man.
Okay, so these are going to be more recommendations here. So...
Absolutely.
I feel like I'm putting you on the spot.
No problem. We're going to roll with it.
All right. Book recommendation?
You have to read Dune by Frank Herbert. You have to read The Stand by Stephen King.
A couple light reads.
Light reads.
Dune. How many books is Dune? It's just one book?
You can read just the first book. I would recommend specifically just read the first book or the first published book, which is Dune by Frank Herbert. There are... I believe 6 in the original set, and then his son and Kevin J. Anderson wrote a bunch of books that aren't as good. So, but definitely read the first one. It's deep.
Shots fired.
It's deep, man. It'll make you think. It'll open your mind. The Stand, and definitely read before you die at least once. If you're a guy or a girl that's interested in, I don't know, just kind of the philosophy of a man. You got to read The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. If you want to read some of the greatest writers of all time, look no further than late 1800s, early 1900s Russia.
Yeah.
And
Crime and Punishment is one of the
wordsmiths.
few books I ever read.
Really?
In high school.
Yeah, Dostoevsky, man. Brothers
good shit.
Karamazov is better to me than Crime and Punishment.
Sure.
It's just deeper. It's more philosophical. And
It's no Catcher in the Rye. I'm just kidding.
dude, don't even get me started. Catching the Rye. I read it and I was like, man, this is like the most Perks of Being a Wallflower fucking bullshit. And I remember reading Perks of Being a Wallflower and be like, oh, that was a great book. I read it like maybe, I don't know, out of high school. I got it on a book on tape because I was delivering pizza, and there was like one that you can get from the library.
Right.
And I remember being like, man, this is so fucking lame. Like, I don't want to say anything about, people that are depressed or whatever, but I feel like so many, I think that's like a handbook. To me, that book is like a handbook of how people act if they want people to think that they're fucking sad.
Right.
It's like, I was in the car listening to the Smiths. And I swear to God, I listened to Chris Gethard's stand-up, and it was just like listening to
Isn't
the
it
Perks of
pronounced
Being...
Get Hard, or am I just making that up?
No, it's spelled Get Hard. But I listened to Chris Gethard's stand-up, which is very, it's very emotional. And a lot of dealing with his mental illnesses and his depression and bipolarism and other sorts of ailments that he has. But it was almost like listening to the Perks of Being a Wallflower audiobook, because it's mostly just like kind of the same things, like where it's like I was listening to the Smiths and I felt infinite and all that sort of thing. And I'm just
so
like,
dumb.
I'm like, come on, guys. Read The Brothers Karamazov.
I'm talking shit to myself at this point, but it's kind of like I'm also gonna butcher the decade here. It's like the 1940s equivalent of Fight Club, and I fucking love Fight Club, but like it's kind of like I'm edgy.
Yeah,
I'm catching some rye right now,
dude. I wish that guy JD Salinger could catch these fucking hands, dude. Because like the whole book is just like, I was hanging out and smoking cigarettes, but everybody was a bunch of phonies.
Exactly.
And I couldn't deal with how many phonies there were, so I smoked some cigarettes. And then I went to the big city, and everybody there were phonies, so I smoked cigarettes. And it's like, dude, that's like the whole fucking book.
It's kind of almost like if you read The Great Gatsby from like the perspective of someone who wasn't invited to any of the parties.
Right? Yeah. Oh, Gatsby over here.
That fucking Gatsby guy's like, oh, I have a mansion, but like I have cigarettes, so
I'm going to drink champagne and smoke cigarettes and ride around in my car and smoke cigarettes.
I'm going to turn on my Green Lantern from across the
bay.
From across the bay because I live in New Jersey because I'm edgy.
Daisy from The Great Gatsby is from Louisville. The character is from Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
Bringing it all back, full circle.
Learning and crying right now.
Just a bunch of phony smoking.
So we've
cigarettes.
talked books. We're gonna stick with the medium.
Yeah,
the media plural. Shows. Any TV shows anyone should be checking out right now?
Current or just in general?
Sure.
Lost.
Well, no.
6 Feet Under.
Okay.
Twin Peaks. Those are my.
No. Okay. No. Current. Sorry.
Current. Gotcha.
To me, current is like. When you're like current or form, I'm like, yeah, something from the last, 3 years.
Okay. No, the shows that I would recommend anybody watch.
You're like Citizen Kane.
Lost, Twin Peaks, and 6 Feet Under. Okay, for the
it's on.
discontinued
You can
shows.
binge watch Netflix Citizen Kane.
Current. I'm the worst at staying current. I will watch a lot of episodes of a show and then somehow just fall out of it and then
I'm
get
the same way.
busy. Well, the thing is, if
I
you
don't
are busy,
I don't finish anything.
Exactly. If you're busy, like it's very hard to fuck. Like so many people are like, oh my God, I watched it in a day. And I was like, you watch 12 1-hour episodes of a show on Netflix in a day?
You have a 12-hour viewing period in your life.
A 12-hour window to watch Netflix. I couldn't believe it.
I've been up since 5 a.m. today, and it is nearly midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
and I'm going to watch 4 episodes before I go to bed.
Right. As far as that goes, Altered Carbon was awesome. I watched part of it.
I haven't watched it yet.
I watched the first season of Man in the High Castle, which is really cool. That goes back to my love for Philip K. Dick. That's another author that you should read. But Man in the High Castle is the Amazon Prime show. Altered Carbon's on Netflix. Westworld on HBO.
Are you in season 2?
I haven't started season 2 yet, but I finished all of season 1.
Spoiler alert, I've fallen asleep during episode 1 of season 2 3 times now.
Oh yeah, that's because you've been up since 5 a.m.
It has
dude.
nothing to do with the show. I'm just been like, I can't eat food and lay horizontally and watch a TV. Like it's physiological. It's not anything to do with the content.
Exactly. But those are my three shows. I would say.
Great. All right, and then last but not least, movies. I know we tried to do some Star Wars banter earlier. Did not go well.
I could talk. I feel like Star Wars comes up in every podcast episode. So many people love it. Guys, Star Wars, I hate to burst your
You're
bubble
a Trekkie,
here.
right?
No, not really. I don't really like Star Trek. I mean, I like it. I like the show. And
You don't like stars in general?
I'm just not a star guy.
I'm more of a moon person.
Dude, planets and stars are for pussies, man.
I'm more of a sand dune kind of guy.
I am a sand dune guy, dude. I love Dune. And Star Wars is just a ripoff of Dune. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Once you read Dune, you'll know what I'm talking about, but most people don't take the time to read.
There's Haba the Jet. I mean, that's like your first clue.
There's it's funny you made that joke.
Boba Bet.
You made that joke because there is a giant worm human hominid in Dune, much like Jabba the Hutt.
Is it the what's the movie with the worms that come out of the ground?
Dune.
No,
Tremors.
Tremors.
Yeah, sandworms. I hate them myself.
Would you say that Dune is just a ripoff of Tremors?
Tremors is a ripoff of Dune, man.
No, it's the other way around. I'm pretty sure.
Exactly.
I'm sure we're getting our timelines mixed up here. But.
Man, when it comes to movies, movies that I saw that really fucking blew my mind. Blade Runner 2049 last year.
The new one was good.
Absolutely fantastic. Loved it.
Gosling.
Loved it.
Ryan Gosling's in it.
Yep, Ryan Gosling nails it. Saw it with Clay. Deep movie. You know, what it is to be human. Kind of like the same themes of Westworld. If you like Westworld, definitely check it out. I loved Best Friends 1 and 2, which was written by and starring the team that brought you The Room. So Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero. And The Disaster Artist. Check out The Disaster Artist if you haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. But Greg Sestero and Tommy Wiseau wrote a movie, and it's actually super good. I saw the second part just last night.
Nice.
In the theater. So it was like a special event. Part 1 came out for like 2 days in the theater like 6 weeks ago, and then part 2 was last night, and I went and saw it. It was great. So look for that on DVD or something coming up. Check it out.
Did you say DVD?
DVD or Blu-ray or whatever.
I'm going to check Blockbuster tomorrow.
I'm just going to give you some different recommendations because I just feel like every fucking movie that comes out is a Star Wars movie or a Marvel movie, you know?
Right.
And there's nothing...
Infinity War. That's a long war.
Dude,
that's almost
this is going on for this is almost as bad as the Google War.
I say this is almost as long as the Iraq War.
Exactly.
The Infinity War is half as long as the Gulf War.
Oh yeah, the Cold War.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Marvel movies well enough. I like Star Wars movies well enough. I don't like either as much as anyone else that I know.
There's a formula, and it works.
Yeah, and the fact that they put out... You're going to get a Star Wars movie every year for the next decade plus.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
That's I think that's like a Disney business model.
Exactly.
Thing.
And Marvel's owned by Disney as well, so you're going to get 3 Marvel movies every year for the next foreseeable few years, you know? And when those...
Black Panther was worth it.
I enjoyed Black Panther. I don't think it was the best Marvel. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was good as say Iron Man 1, which I loved Iron Man 1. Guardians of the Galaxy I thought was really
the Edward Norton.
The Edward Norton Incredible Hulk.
Wait, no, hold on. Rocket Man.
Not even close.
Wait, it was Edward Norton in Rocket Man? No, he wasn't.
I thought Black Panther was good. I didn't think it was as good as I love the X-Men, like X-Men First Class, not even a Marvel movie. It's like a Fox movie.
Yeah.
To me, like X-Men First Class are better than like all the Marvel movies. Just that one movie is better than every Marvel movie.
I think X-Men, the stand-up arcade game with 2 CRT monitors
is better
and
than
6 joysticks is better than any movie that they'll ever put out. Like, if I can superpower, if I can get my turbo power up and like Nightcrawler the fuck out of the screen,
right,
in an arcade full of strangers, like that's better than any Johnny Depp.
Dude,
I just said Johnny Depp and I realized that I'm talking about Robert Downey Jr. It's basically Pirates of the Iron Man.
Johnny Depp will be in one. It's only a matter of time, guys. He'll do anything for a paycheck these days. So trust me.
He'll be a bank robber. And they're like, we got to stop this one bank robber.
Exactly. Johnny Depp, he's the only bad
Black Panther Mass,
guy. Right, exactly.
the crossover film.
I ripped a fatality on a dude at Rec Bar in front of a whole crowd of people, and I felt like a
Recently?
fucking champion. Oh, yeah.
Like a week ago?
Like 2 months ago.
Oh my God.
We were playing Mortal
Which
Kombat.
character, which fatality?
Sub-Zero, Mortal Kombat 1, where you ripped off their head and spinal cord.
Nice.
But the thing is not only did I beat a guy, I fucking did a fatality on a perfect stranger in front of like 5 other people, and I felt like such a hard ass. Like I felt like Arthur Fonzarelli, dude, for real.
you punched the you punched the arcade, and it did a fatality essentially.
Exactly. I felt like $1 million. Maybe the coolest kid at Rec Bar.
That's so fucking funny. That's probably, if I had to go out.
I gave my friend a handful of coins, and he's like, "Dude, let me buy a few beers." And I was like, "Just call me JRR Tokens." You silently laughed. It'd be funny if you laughed out loud on the mic.
You know what's funny is I don't laugh a whole lot out loud.
I just laugh on the inside.
And I say that's funny a lot. And I saw one movie once where they called out a character for doing that. It was actually Igby Goes Down, starring one of Kieran Culkin.
Yeah.
And like Claire Danes? No. One of the blonde.
I rented like Igby Goes Down on
pixie.
VHS from Blockbuster my senior year of high school.
Yeah.
So.
And she said, that's funny. He's like, why do you say that instead of actually laughing? And I've caught myself. I say that's funny a lot and I don't know. For some reason, I don't laugh out loud nearly as much.
I'm too vulnerable when I laugh.
Unless I'm in a movie theater and I laugh so fucking loud that like my ex-girlfriend used to like not go to the movies with me because she said, you're laughing to see if other people will hear you laugh.
You're just that guy.
I was like, what is that even like? No, how? If anything, it's the only place I feel safe.
But yeah, I could laugh in the privacy of my own of the movie theater. No one knows it's me.
I'll lay here and just watch stand-up comedy and go, that's funny. Like by myself. I'll say it out loud.
By the way, I think it's time, just speaking about movies that are funny or not funny, I know there was a lot of social commentary, and I don't want to turn this podcast, do a 180, but I think it's enough time has passed that we can both agree that new Ghostbusters movie wasn't funny at all. And did you ever see that, the Ghostbusters reboot?
No, the female one?
Yes.
Nope.
Well, I will tell you this: they didn't have any funny jokes in it. Whoever wrote that movie didn't bother to put any humor in it. And the thing is I remember watching it, and I was just like, I wouldn't even say that's funny, or would I laugh? I would just go, like at parts, and then I tried hard to like get other people to like, oh, maybe if I go, they'll laugh, and
maybe
we'll
if
both
it's like
kind
a
of
crowd,
we'll kind of enjoy it.
We'll get the vibe going.
Literally, yeah, I sat in silence, not laughing. Then I sat in silence, not smiling, and then I fell asleep.
In the physical theater?
No, on home video.
The VHS from Blockbuster.
Yes.
That's fucking.
That's on video cassette.
That's yeah. I feel like the good news is we live in an era where we're not paying per unit of content.
Right.
So we can bail.
Yeah.
Whereas when you were paying like $4 for a VHS, you fucking finish that VHS.
Dude, and
no matter how insufferable it was.
Exactly. And when you're a kid, though, you're just stoked to actually watch a movie and be able to rent a movie and like have a friend over and eat pizza. That it doesn't really matter what you watch anyway.
Even if
and you're gonna love it, no matter what.
Even if it's that Brad Pitt movie where it's basically just a bunch of children being molested for like an hour and a half.
Oh, you're talking about Sleepers?
Yes.
Even that movie is.
I'm like, I'm so glad I get to watch this movie with my grandmother.
Oddly enough, we rented Sleepers off of. We rented Sleepers, and I think the whole family watched it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a family affair.
Right. Yeah. Kevin Bacon, Brad Pitt, and Brad Renfro as a kid plays young Brad Pitt, I think.
Oh,
and
never made that connection. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Exactly. You're like, let's just some lighthearted family molestation flick.
Right. Well, I remember like as a kid, like even just real shithole movies. Like I remember reading like Lawnmower Man and being like, "Oh yes, dude, virtual reality. This is crazy." And that movie is total garbage in retrospect. So
yeah. And the good news is, neither of us mow our lawns.
I do. I love mowing lawns.
Not me. You can come mow my lawn whenever you want.
Fantastic.
Did you get a cleaning person?
I did.
Okay.
I took your advice and I got a cleaning person. It was worth it.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is I currently don't have a cleaning person.
Well, I can recommend you a good one.
I moved into much more bathrooms in my new house, so we'll have to reassess.
Yeah,
but
one.
The trick is
This one has a bathroom, as opposed to my old house. We just peed in the sink.
we just peed in the van.
Right, I just peed in the van.
All right, and that's going to wrap it up here for the Zack versus Sean versus Wild versus Zacky and Shawnee. No, Zack and Shawnee make a podcast.
Make a podcast.
Thanks for doing this, buddy.
No problem, man. I hope that you guys learned a different side about me, maybe, and we'll have to do this again. I don't know.
Yeah, I think next time
Hopefully you guys like it.
Should get a better host.
Man, I think you knocked it out of the park.
This is my first podcast, so you may have just started.
Maybe you'll catch the fever. You'll catch the bug. You were really good.
5 years from now.
You were really good.
When I have the #1 podcast in America, and they'll ask me,
right,
how did it start? And I'll be like, I just thought of it on my own.
And nobody had
in the words of Conor McGregor, I'd like to thank fucking nobody. I got here by myself with no help.
I thought of it on my own.
I've actually never even heard a podcast until I was famous.
Right, I just decided, hey.
I took the Sean Thriller Smith route and just went straight from guest to world-renowned host.
Exactly. I saw Joe Rogan do it, and I thought, well, hell, I could kick that dude's ass.
He's so scrawny.
Yeah, and I was like, I could kick that dude's ass, not only in real life, but in the podcast world. So that's how it started.
Yeah, basically, I saw
I put
David
the
Letterman.
Fear factor in that kid.
David Letterman interviewed Obama, and I was like, I'm smarter than both of those people. So
I could do what both of them have done in their lives, no problem.
I could run the country and have
a successful show at the same
longest
time.
running talk show, and also have a Netflix special.
Easy.
Simultaneously. Thank you all for tuning in. We look forward to next week, where you won't hear my voice.
Yeah, but I think you knocked
God
it out of
willing.
the park. You're
God
really
willing.
good. You're going to make it happen.
Thanks, man. I appreciate the positivity and the enthusiasm.
No problem. And I guess let me take over from here and just say, guys, if you like what you heard, this is definitely you've been listening to now 2 episodes worth of content, or at least one really long episode's worth of content. You made it all the way to the end. Something tells me you have, but if not, like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. It's on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, wherever you get it. And if you have already subscribed, tell your friend about it that hasn't subscribed. Let's try to build this. We're going to do global domination. We're looking it's like Risk. Right now, we're all in Papua New Guinea. We want to expand all the way through the Western Hemisphere.
We got to get Australia.
Then we got to, just build from there.
If your friend hasn't heard this yet, take them down to the Blockbuster video
and rent the Sean versus Wild tapes
right next to Sleepers alphabetically.
Your family will love both. So definitely check it out. But yeah, guys, I thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you learned a little something about me. Zach Pennington, again, thank you so much for being the host. And you can check out Zach Pennington. Where can people find you online?
Usually you can find me at Galaxy or Butchertown Social. I'm just there, just hanging there. Out.
And you go visit
FlightTreasons.com, flyingaxes.com, a bunch of different stuff. So just look me up on Facebook, send me a message. I'm a pretty approachable person. So
exactly. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been a very special, very personal, very awesome episode of the Sleepers Fan Podcast. I'm just kidding, the Sean versus Wild Podcast.
Thank you for listening, DNN.